it's Minnie here. Last time we tried some of the weirdest snacks hidden in Beijing's Hutong and learned the stories behind them. Pretty interesting, right? But honestly, every time I walk through those narrow, winding Hutong, food isn't the only thing on my mind. Have you ever felt this way? Hutongs are super narrow, full of twists and turns. And sometimes you walk all the way in only to realize it's a dead end. Doesn't that kind of feel like our lives sometimes? Like there are so many paths in front of you, but you still don't know which direction to take. So today, I really want to sit down and talk with you about this invisible road that young Chinese people are trying to walk. This represents a clash of values between our generation and that of our parents, leaving many of us feeling lost in life. The Hutong symbolizes the living environment and values of our parents' generation. To them, life should be just like Hutong, steady, quiet, predictable, and safe. But our generation, it feels like we were born outside Hutong, in a world that's huge, fast-paced, and constantly changing. Our way of thinking is completely different. So in today's video, I will share my own story about that, and I will also teach you some very common Chinese expressions that truly capture how people feel inside. For our parents' generation, there's one word carved deep into their bones. It's 安稳 stability. 安稳 安稳 safe and steady. To them, the best life is one without storms or surprises. And to achieve this stability, they value something called 铁饭碗. It means iron rice bowl. A rice bowl made of iron. It won't break. It means a job you can keep for life, like becoming a civil servant. In their eyes, having that job means your life will always be stable. My parents also hoped I would become a civil servant when I was in university. They kept telling me how someone else's kid became one and how safe and secure their life is now. And especially in the past few years, with the economy struggling and so many people losing jobs, they would say, see, being a civil servant, it's still the best. You will never get laid off. And I just, I don't know how to say. So you see, this is the huge value gap between us and our parents. They want stability, but we want dreams. Alright, now let's step out of that warm little Hutong and walk into our own world. What's it like here? I will use two super popular Chinese internet words to explain. You will understand right away. The first one is 内卷 involution. 内卷 内卷 Imagine you are in a movie theater. Everyone is sitting and watching the movie just fine. Suddenly, one person stands up to see better, then the person behind has to stand up, and the next one, and the next. In the end, everyone is standing, but the view is exactly the same as before. You're just more exhausted. That's involution, 内卷. Everyone is overworking and overstudying, but nothing really improves. It's a competition with no finish line, but you are afraid to stop. So what do people do when they are too tired? That brings us to the second word, 躺平, literally lying flat. 躺平, 躺平. It doesn't mean literally lying down. It's an attitude. I don't want to play this success game anymore. I will lower my desires, live simply, and be happy on my own terms. No chasing promotions, no pressure to buy a house or get married, just earning enough to live and being content. Between 内卷 and 躺平, involution and lying flat, most young people swing back and forth. We work ourselves to death during the day, and at night we think, okay, forget it, I will just lie flat. But the next morning, we still have to get up and keep grinding to survive. That's the most real state of our generation. This contradiction shows up very clear in my own life. My parents have that classic Hutong mindset. They want me to have a stable, steady job. But me, I'm someone who loves exploring, who doesn't want a stable job at all. I studied in the US, immigrated to Canada, and now I work as a content creator. I'm constantly flying between China and abroad. In my parents' eyes, I'm unstable, unpredictable, and always worrying them. They don't understand my lifestyle at all. And they often say things that put a lot of pressure on me. Back then, I didn't know how to deal with all this, so I avoided going home. I only went back for a few days during Chinese New Year. I barely even called because every phone call turned into criticism or complaints. When I was the most confused, I read a book called Nowhere to Go. It tells the story about a young Chinese guy who just graduated. He travels around China while writing, not for fun, but to figure out what kind of life he really wants. This book is right here. What really touched me wasn't the big famous places he visited, like Beijing, Xi'an, Guangzhou, and Xiamen. It was the thoughts he had along the way. He met so many different people, like old, young, working class, well-off, lost, successful. And while he was writing their stories, he was actually discovering himself. There's one paragraph in the book that hit me so hard. Let me read for you in Chinese. 你不知道哪里才是下一个渡口. You don't know where the next ferry is. 你不知道对岸是否有人在等候？你没有答案。You have no answers. 也没有太多奢求。Also, no many wishes. 忽然间，你是否想回头？ Suddenly, you want to turn back. This woke me up immediately. I suddenly understood something. Walking your own path doesn't mean going home and tear down the Hutong and fighting your parents. That's not courage, that's anger. Real courage is what the author did. First, you leave. You take the first step toward the life you want. Along the way, you fail, you learn, you grow, and when you become stronger and clearer, then you return. But this return is not giving up. It's coming back as a newer, wiser version of yourself, ready to have an honest, equal conversation with your parents. You finally understand their fears and their love, and maybe they will start understanding your choices too. Chinese has a perfect word for this whole process. 摸索, to feel your way forward. 摸索,摸索. 摸 means to touch, to sense. 索 means to search. 摸索. So together, it means to find your path bit by bit, even when you can't see clearly. Okay, we covered a lot today, and some of it got pretty deep. Let's quickly review today's Chinese words. 安稳, 内卷, 躺平, 摸索. If you relate to this feeling of figuring out your path in life, I truly recommend reading this book. There's an English version. The link is in my description below. And I'd love to discuss the book with you in my future videos, both the ideas in it and the Chinese expressions that you can learn. It's honestly super helpful for learning Chinese and understanding the mindset of young people in China today. Before we end, I want to ask you, in your culture, what's the biggest difference between you and your parents? And what kind of paths are you currently exploring for yourself? Feel free to share your story in the comments. We can all encourage each other. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Minnie, and I will see you in my next episode. Bye!